Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross from PTCGRadio, and we are back with the final from the Doncaster Winner Box, the tournament from the UK where Roaring Skies is legal. If you're watching this just after it's been recorded, then Roaring Skies has just become legal in the US, UK, Europe, etc. But this tournament was a couple of weeks ago before it was legal, so this is your chance to see some of these decks played by really good players in a competitive environment, in a proper tournament, an unsanctioned tournament, of course, because if it was sanctioned, we wouldn't be able to have Roaring Skies cards legal. Now, as always, I heartily suggest that you watch these videos in order. I've already uploaded videos from rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the top 8, and the top 4. So there are 7 rounds which you could have watched prior to this. The links to all of those rounds is in the description of this particular video, so I would heartily recommend you go there first. So, here we are in the final, and we have Sid on the left playing his unusual Seismitoad deck with Dusknoir and basic water energy and Mewtwo, etc. Quillfish in there as well. And on the right, we have Ryan Moorehouse, the chap who finished 13th at Worlds last year in Masters. Actually had the same amount of points as the person who finished 8th, but lost out on resistance, on opponent's win percentage, unfortunately. Ryan is playing a very straightforward speed Seismitoad Shaymin deck, and we've seen in previous videos that that deck can be very flippy, and he's actually mulliganed twice to start this game off. So Sid will be starting with an extra 2 cards in his hand. I didn't actually see who on the flip a moment ago, but it's going to be pretty obvious pretty quickly. And if you saw the other video, we are actually starting this round right after the conclusion of the top 4. You would have seen them starting to set up at the end of the previous video because, and I'm sure loads of you have been in this position before, the venue want to close, the people running it want to go home, so we started to final off very, very quickly. So Ryan, still no basic here. Oh no, we do have a basic, sorry, how silly of me. So Sid gets his extra 2 cards. Just as a point which a lot of people get wrong, what you're supposed to do is you wait until all the mulligans have happened, and then when your opponent has a basic, you draw all your mulligans at once. So Sid gets to go first here, and he starts with a Duskull in the active, which is not ideal because it's got 50 HP and you got to try and get it out of said active. Oh, that doesn't really matter. There goes a Floatstone. He's got a Duskull on the bench as well for if that Duskull goes down. And Ryan there, all he's going to need is a Muscle Band to get the KO on that Duskull, as a Duskull, if I remember correctly, only has 50 HP. And there goes the laser, so he doesn't even need the Muscle Band now. That Duskull is going to be knocked out by a Quaking Punch. So there goes an Ultra Ball. Weirdly, he used the regular Ultra Ball and discarded a secret rare Ultra Ball, which is a bit of a slap in the face to the rarity gods there, but hey-ho. And he's going to be searching, I would imagine, for a Shaymin here, just so he can draw some extra cards. He's got a very low hand size here. There we go. There is the Shaymin. He's got that setup ability, which allows him to draw until he's got 6 cards in hand, and that's going to really help him to get a bunch more cards. Now, Sid, and I've mentioned this in many of the previous videos, I'm not a fan of Sid having attached the double colourless in the previous turn. If you're playing against a Seismitoad deck, you can assume that they're not playing many ends. Now, we've seen that Ryan does play end, but he's going to be playing, 1 or 0. Probably 1, maybe 2 at a push. We know he's playing Enhanced Hammer, Xerasic. We know that he's playing Crushing Hammer. I would be surprised. Ryan is going to have to draw and or flip pretty poorly to not get rid of Sid's double colourless energy here. So if I was Sid, I would have left it until the following turn. I could see why you might put down a basic water energy. The only way to get rid of a basic water energy on the bench is through hitting heads on a Crushing Hammer, and that's far from a guarantee. Also, had he been attaching basic water, it's going to help to fuel the second attack for Seismitoad, the Grenade Hammer that does 130 damage, and 30 to 2 of your benched. So Ryan there, we saw him drop a Jirachi to get a supporter, and he's getting rid of it straight away with an Ultra Ball, but presumably he's got a VS Seeker in hand, so essentially this just allows him to get rid of the... He's getting a Shaymin there to draw some more cards. Although he could have just got rid of the VS Seeker. Otherwise, I'm not sure why he would play the Jirachi And it's a heads, and he gets a Shaymin back again off a super scoop up. I can't see any other reason to play the Jirachi just to... Oh, we have got a crushing hammer there, so here's his first opportunity to get rid of that double colourless energy, and he hasn't. Yeah, I don't see any other reason why you would play the Jirachi to get the Sycamore and then just immediately Ultra Ball away the Sycamore. You could have Ultra Balled away the Jirachi and not had a 90 HP EX that gives up 2 prizes stuck on your bench. So Sid here desperately hoping that Ryan doesn't get rid of that DCE, and it doesn't look, at least initially, like he's doing so. Now, obviously, and there's another crushing hammer there, so he's going to have a second chance to get rid of it. And that is a Tails, because on the new Professor dice, the Professor logo is a Tails. So Sid has still got that... Oh, there's a heads on the scoop up. Sid has still got that double colourless energy, but there was only a 25% chance of... There was only a 25% chance of actually hitting that. Now, what I liked there was that Ryan waited there to... yes, Ryan played the Acro Bike before he played the Crushing Hammer, because he might not have needed to play that Crushing Hammer. He could have used it as fodder. So we do finally see a heads-on Crushing Hammer, and there goes the double colourless energy attached to the Seismitoad. And you'll notice Ryan is flipping a lot here. Super Scoop-Ups, Crushing Hammers. Look how many cards he's drawn. He has shown there's his 4th Crushing Hammer. He's drawn all of them in one turn. I think Ryan's going to get to the stage in a minute where he's just going to stop. I would be surprised if he kept playing here, because what else does he need? He's got rid of all of Sid's energy. He's going to take a prize. He's going to get the trainer lock going. He's got a muscle band attached to the second Seismitoad, and he's got a second Seismitoad on the bench. Now, he is obviously going to want to get, essentially he can play out those trainers because he's going to be trainer locked. Assuming that Sid can hit a double colourless energy, of course. But other than that, there's not really very much he wants this game. You got to remember, all he really wants is lasers and hammers, and if he ends up trainer locked, he's not going to be able to use either of them. What he needed from this turn was he needed to get rid of Sid's energy, which he's done. He needed, 2 Seismitoad, which he's done. Both with a muscle band, which he's done. And he needed a double colourless energy on the active. Now, he is still drawing cards. Essentially here, he's been able to get a double colourless energy, which he can attach next turn, and then he can try and set himself up for a supporter for the following turn. And he's got his Lissandra's trump card there, which he's going to be able to use to put them all back in the following turn. But Ryan doesn't need very much here. And you can see why he's kept going. Next turn, he wants to Lissandra's trump card and have something in his hand to use later. Now, I am slightly surprised he didn't use a scoop-up Cyclone there. He could have used that to get the Shaymin in hand. But then, of course, you've got to realise that, there's no point getting the Shaymin in hand because he's got a hand size, so the Shaymin isn't actually going to do him a huge amount of good. Now, Sid did have a second double colourless in hand, and he had a Juniper that he seemed pretty sure he was going to use, so maybe you can see him, you can see the benefit in using the... you can see the benefit in him using the, putting the double colourless energy down the previous turn. But he must have known he was going to lose it, so I don't know. There's other things that could have happened. Sid could have drawn an N, and we know Sid plays more N because of all the tricks he's got. He needs to play more N. So maybe he top decks an N the following turn. I'm just not a fan of playing down energy that you know you're going to lose. It just seems kind of silly. And playing against Ryan's deck, and bearing in mind we're at the final here, so Sid's going to know about Ryan's deck. It just seems like it was a waste of an energy attachment. Now, the crucial thing here is that both parties are trainer locked. Oh, that is absolutely wonderful. Turn 3 Dusknoir just from manual attachments, and that is awesome. Now, what Sid really wants here is a second Seismitoad to be putting the basic energy onto. Now here, what's really, really good is that Sid can start kind of just putting all the damage onto Seismitoad, and he is going to essentially do very well out of this. Now, he's doing this to just stop Ryan healing. Now, Ryan is trainer locked, but he does play, I believe he plays AZ, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong about that. So he wants to spread the damage around just to make sure that if Ryan does heal, he's not healing too much energy. Now, the advantage that Sid's got here is that he started attacking first. Seismitoad with a muscle band, 4-hit KOs a Seismitoad. So with Sid getting the first hit, Ryan Seismitoad is going to die first. Now, had he drawn a water energy... Oh, he has drawn a water energy. Sid can grenade hammer here. And that will get the KO on the Seismitoad. What it will also do is get rid of the trainer lock. And Ryan can afford to lose a Seismitoad. That's not a huge deal. Again, Sid really needs a second... he really could do with a second Seismitoad to start putting energy onto. Now, I wouldn't grenade hammer this quickly because he's not dying next turn. Ryan's trainer locked. He can't play a laser or anything like that. He's maxing out at 50 damage. So Sid's going to have 150 damage on himself next turn. So grenade hammer last turn wasn't the way to go. He could grenade hammer here and kill that Seismitoad whilst leaving a bunch of damage on the field. Now, unfortunately, there's not quite enough damage on the field to kill the Seismitoad. Oh, no, there is. I do apologise. He's doing 150. So what he could do here was move all the energy and just kill a Shaymin, and then he could grenade hammer to kill the Seismitoad. What he could also do is move all the damage around to a different Seismitoad. Move all the damage around to a different Seismitoad, and then grenade hammer the active Seismitoad to kill it, and then next turn potentially kill that second Seismitoad. Or he can just keep doing what he's doing. The problem is, Sid Seismitoad is gonna die next turn. It's gonna happen. Now, it seems like he is gonna take the easy KO. He's gonna take it on a Jirachi, which is quite good. And he has always got the basic water for the Seismitoad. That's really, really handy. I like that a lot. Because even if he untrainer locks Ryan, Ryan's got to hit the heads-on crushing hammer. And we've seen that Ryan's flips, they're not all that and a bag of potato chips this game. So Sid's in a good position here, but Sid's got a very awkward decision to make. If he grenade hammer, he's got the KO, he's down to 2 prizes, but he's giving Ryan at least a turn of trainers, and that's assuming he can get the Seismitoad going next turn. Not only that, but when you've got 2 Seismitoads battling it out, if you've not got a... Oh, and interestingly, he has kept the trainer lock on, so he's wasted a couple energy attachments. But you saw at the time, he was junipering all the time, and there was no better place to put the energy attachments. He didn't have a second Seismitoad down, so it wasn't the end of the world. He's just keeping this going for now, and the beautiful thing here is that he's able to basically do the damage to Seismitoad and then just move it around and kill those weak Shaymins on the bench, whereas Ryan has got to KO the Seismitoad. Essentially, Ryan is 4-hit KOing Sid Seismitoads, and Sid is 3-hit KOing the bench Shaymins, and that is very, very handy. Now, the big problem here is, and this is what I was getting to a minute ago, if Sid had gone for the grenade hammer, here, Sid now... Ooh, and that is very interesting, because in a minute, Sid is going to want to grenade hammer. So let me work this through. At the moment, Sid is doing 30 damage per turn. Ryan is doing 50 damage per turn. However, what Sid is going to be able to do is basically leave enough damage on the field to kill a Shaymin on the bench using the Dusknoir, and then grenade hammer for his last 2 prizes. So at the moment we see a total of 110 damage on the field, which isn't going to be enough. I think it's 110 damage, unless they're going to move it around just a little bit. So we've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we have 110 damage on the field. So he needs to do 180 in total. So if he gets 2 more turns of Quaking Punch, he can then grenade hammer for the win. by which point Ryan is not going to have knocked out that Seismitoad. It's going to take Ryan 4 turns to KO the active Seismitoad. Sid, on the other hand, is basically going to take 2 turns to do all the KOing. Oh, and he uses Lysandra to bring the Shaymin active. I was just about to talk about Ryan maybe doing that on a Dusknoir. Ryan now can't play a switch, and he's done it on the Dusknoir, as I was suggesting he probably should. With everybody trainer locked, and he's not been able to get the Shaymin out of the active. Sid needs a switch here. Now, Ryan basically needs to use a double colourless energy to retreat the Shaymin. Ryan only plays 4 double colourless energy, but crucially he's got 2 on the field, and he's been trainer locked, so it's hard for him to get them actually out into the active. Sid, on the other hand, and has he got a switch in hand? I don't know, but what he can do is play that laser as he's not trainer locked, and playing that laser is just going to get more damage onto Ryan's side of the field, which is going to allow him to take some KOs. Now, what he has done there is and that's brilliant, he's played the megaphone. Now, what he did there was he used Dusknoir to knock out a Shaymin mid-turn to draw more cards, essentially, to give himself more chance of being able to get that Dusknoir out of the active. Now, Dusknoir's got a retreat cost of 3, so he's going to need to get that Dusknoir out of the active, and he's going to need a switch to do so. However, he's got a VS Seeker. He can use that to get a Skylar. Remember that Sid's Seismitoad deck is more teched out. It's got more tricks, so it's going to play cards like Skylar. Presumably here, he can play this VS Seeker for the Skylar for a switch or a card like that to get the Seismitoad into the active. And if he gets that Seismitoad into the active, he will unfortunately need a water energy to grenade hammer, which is slightly upsetting. Although it doesn't seem like he's actually got... Oh, yes, he has. He's got an escape rope there, so that's all right. He's got an escape rope. He can search for that. And he can't grenade hammer this turn, but he can just do just going to take a couple more turns of Quaking Punch, and he's going to have enough damage on the field to... And to be honest, he's probably not even going to need to Quaking Punch. To grenade hammer. He's just going to be able to keep Quaking Punching. Now, the unfortunate thing is he's given up that 30 damage from the poison, but that would have happened from the hypnotoxic laser, but he's back to where he was. As the game is at the moment, Ryan essentially has no chance of winning this game as it carries on. Now, he can do something like that to get rid of the energy. Sid's going to need some energy next turn, but if Sid has energy and keeps attacking, Ryan is going to lose this game. There's 60 damage on the field, which means, although he can't grenade hammer this turn, next turn, so in 2 turns' time, Sid is going to have 120 damage on Ryan's side of the field, and that's assuming... And Ryan can't get rid of his energy without a Team Flare Grunt. So if Sid's got an energy, he wins next turn. Otherwise, he wins the turn after. What Ryan needs to do in this game is do what he did a moment ago. He needs to use a Lysandra to drag the Dusknoir into the active. Dusknoir's got a retreat cost of 3, so cannot be easily retreated. It takes 2 energy attachments. And he needs to trainer lock it. And that's what Ryan needs to do. That's essentially the only way he can win at this stage. What the Dusknoir does is it turns an even matchup uneven, and Ryan's scooping there because he knows it's not going to happen. He's going off to game 2. And the Dusknoir there really was the deciding factor for Sid. What it basically means is Ryan is trying to KO Sid's 180p Seismitoads for 2 prizes, but Sid is KOing the 110 HP Shaymin and the 90 HP Jirachi for 2 prizes by using a Dusknoir to move the damage around. Now, the big downside of using Dusknoir is the fact that it's got a really big retreat cost, and for the majority of the game, you're going to find yourself trainer locked. And if there are a couple of turns where Ryan is able to use a Lysandra to drag the Dusknoir active, keep the Dusknoir in the active, while he uses a bunch of hammers to get rid of all of the energy on Sid's side of the board, and also uses some super scoop ups or his scoop up cyclone to get rid of all the damage on his side of the field, then he can take this game. But if the game just goes as it does, and you'll notice also Sid does not rely on rare candy. He appears to be playing a 2-2-2 line of Dusknoir, and he's going to have at least one turn of trainers. So you can see that Sid's deck, it's built to get Dusknoir out. And remember, he doesn't need a turn-free Dusknoir. He needs a Dusknoir. So he needs a Dusknoir on turn 6 of the game or something like that. Right, now there is probably just a little bit of a blip there. Essentially what happened was I ran out of recording space on my computer, so I had to go and delete some stuff and start the recording again. Luckily, if it was ever going to happen, it happened between games, so it's a pretty good way to go, to be honest with you. So, sorry about that. Now, what I'm basically saying is that Sid doesn't need a Dusknoir too early. Sid needs a Dusknoir before he gets a KO on Ryan's Seismitoad. With a Muscle Band, that's going to take 4 turns. Without, it's going to take 6. And that's very important here, because as long as he gets... Oh, we got another mulligan from Ryan there. Oh, it looks like he's up to 3 mulligans here, which is not good. Going to give Sid a lot of stuff to start off with, and remember, Sid needs more cards than Ryan. So essentially here, Sid's got the upper hand, but of course that's if he can set up. Let's not forget that Ryan's deck is super consistent and very, very fast. Seismitoad on Seismitoad essentially comes down to, if I've got a Muscle Band and you don't, and I start Quaking Punching, I'm going to win. Otherwise, it's essentially whoever gets... Oh, that's horrible. That is absolutely horrible. Ryan now, and this could be a very short game, because let's not forget that... Oh, this is not good. And you'll notice that Ryan actually started off and immediately passed his turn because he had nothing. He had no supporters or anything. Now, Sid probably only plays one Gets This, but that really doesn't matter. And that's horrible. I don't know why he played the escape rep there, I'm going to be honest with you. Because he could have just left the Seismitoad in the active and started attacking. So, I don't quite know why he would do that. Now there is the Dusknoir, but now he's going to have to get the Dusknoir out of the active. That is a proxy, by the way. This tournament allows proxies. That is a Verbank City gym. It's the only proxy in the game. Now, and presumably here he's going to want to play a Jirachi. He's going to want to use a Jirachi to get a Skylar, and then use a Skylar to get a switching card. I don't quite know why he played that escape rope. He really wanted the Seismitoad in the active so that he could then start playing, start Quaking Punching. Now, he also really needs a Muscle Band here. He's already got the Dusknoir out. All he needs is a Muscle Band here, and this is going to be a very quick game, because he's going to be hitting for 50. Ryan, at the most, is going to be hitting for 30. And Sid is going to be able to move the damage around with Dusknoir to take easy prizes. This could be a very quick game at this rate. And although I said Ryan's deck is super consistent, this was a point, and I've made this on my podcast, PTCGRadio. I don't know why he's going for an N. That is a terrible, terrible choice. Juniper, you've literally got everything you need other than a switch. I don't know why he wouldn't... I don't know why he played this Gate Rev a minute ago, but there he needs to Skylar for a switching card, and N is a terrible, terrible choice here. He needs to Juniper. Okay, and he is Junipering. But if he's Junipering, I don't know why he played a Jirachi and searched for the N. Because now he's just put a Jirachi on his bench, which is an easy 2 prizes for Ryan later on. I don't quite know what he did there. If you spotted what he did, pop it in the comments. It looked like he just played a Jirachi to get an N, which he didn't play, which is a waste of time. He needs a switching card. Every turn that he doesn't Quaking Punch is another turn that Ryan can get going. As it stands at the moment, Ryan has absolutely nothing. I mean, nothing. If Sid starts attacking, Ryan's screwed. There's nothing Ryan can essentially do. Best case scenario, Ryan starts hitting for 30, but he starts hitting for 30 later than Sid starts hitting, and it's a complete and utter waste of time. Does he hit a switching card? He hits a Muscle Band, which is good, but he still hasn't... have the switching cut. I don't know if I missed something there, but it looked like he just played an escape rope to get the Dusknoir into the active. And then when he played the Jirachi, I don't know why he wouldn't get a Skylar and go for a Floatstone or a Switch. That seems very strange to me, because he's not Quaking Punching. Now, there is every opportunity here. Let's say next turn Ryan top decks a Shaymin, he can get going, and we've seen already with Ryan's deck what can happen when he gets going, and he can then start playing Startling Megaphone to get rid of his Muscle Band. He can play Enhanced Hammer, and he can play Crushing Hammer. Oh, next turn, he's got to get out of the active here. Ryan's got an Ultra Ball, which is going to turn into a Shaymin for 6 next turn. So he's got to get the switching card here. It's really, really important. Because also, Ryan is going to be able to... that Dusknoir is going to still be in the active. Now, there was an argument for Ryan, and again, this is asking an awful lot of foresight here. But there was an argument for Ryan that he maybe shouldn't have benched that Seismitoad because, you know, looking at the way Ryan was, Ryan needed to draw out of it, and as kind of happens, if you really needed to draw out of something, then there is an argument that what you should be doing is keeping your hand as big as you can so that, for instance, you can then play an Ultra Ball when you get it. So he could have played the Ultra Ball 1 turn earlier. Now, Sid has put himself in a terrible position here. Now, what he also could have done was he could have attached a Water Energy to that Dusknoir instead of the bench Seismitoad, and then he could have attached a DCE last turn to retreat it. Sid could have almost won this game by now. I've pointed out he could have gone Jirachi for a Skylar, or he could have just manually retreated it by now. Had he manually retreated it, he has got the Quaking Punch with a Muscle Band. Ryan does not have any Muscle Bands. So Sid's doing 50, plus potentially Laser. Ryan's doing 30. Sid's got Dusknoir. Sid is going to win the game. It's as easy as that. Instead, what he's done is essentially give Ryan... 4 or 5 turns to get going again. I don't know what he's doing. I'm going to be perfectly honest here. We've seen Sid in these games, and he has played superbly. He's clearly got an awesome deck, which has been incredibly well made. He's clearly a very, very good player. But none of this would have happened if he'd have Jirachi'd for a Skylar. And even, let's say that the Skylar was prized. Okay. So attach a Water Energy, and then he could have used a DCE to manually retreat the Dusknoir. And he would have, and if you go back the last couple of turns, he had the energy and he had the time to do so before that Dusknoir before Ryan got going. Now, Sid's trainer locked, and Ryan still isn't. Ryan has got rid of some of Sid's energy. Ryan here has hit heads on a Super Scoop Up, getting rid of all the damage on his side of the field. He's going to be looking for a... Here he's going to be looking for a Startling Megaphone to get rid of Sid's Muscle Bands. There's a Crushing Hammer. So now Sid's lost 2 of his free energy cards that were on the board. And now Ryan is completely in the driving seat, and I don't know whether I missed something, and as I keep saying, please pop down... Oh, and he had the Enhanced Hammer for the DC if he hadn't hit the Xerosic earlier. As I keep saying, if I have missed something, ladies and gentlemen, please do let me know. But honestly, it looked like he had 2 opportunities to get that Dusknoir out of the active. He turned them down, and he gave Ryan a chance to get going. And I do apologise here if it looks like I'm sitting here pointing out misplays. We've all been there. We all know, especially in the final of a tournament, it's late, you've been going long, the prizes are good and all of that. So I've made some hideous misplays in my time. But part of these videos are supposed to be entertaining, and the other part is supposed to be trying to help you guys improve your game. So little things like, I desperately need to draw out of this. Let's not bench the Seismitoad so that if I draw an Ultra Ball, I can get going 1 turn earlier and only play the Seismitoad. You know, if it looks like Sid's getting ready for a Grenade Hammer, then by all means, put the Seismitoad down this turn. Although I suppose you could argue that Sid could do a Grenade Hammer with a Muscle Band Verbank Laser, and that would do 180. So that could have been in Ryan's thinking earlier in the game if Sid had enough energy on the field. But I think leaving that Dusknoir active, as we talked about last game, it is exactly what Ryan wants. Ryan wants that Dusknoir kept in the active. Having said that, oh no, sorry, I was going to say it doesn't matter losing one prize. Sid can force him into or try at least to put him into a 7-prize game. But the problem here is Sid doesn't have a Duskull on the bench, so there is not going to be a Dusknoir for a little while. However, as I've said, losing one prize is not the end of the world. It really isn't. Now Sid's got nothing that cannot have free retreat with a DCE. And I know that's not free retreat, but hey-ho. There's nothing that Sid can't retreat just by using a DCE. So that means that there's no real good Lysandra targets for Ryan. And as I've mentioned many, many times, in a Toad-on-Toad fisticuffs... Oh, there's a Xerosic coming down for that DCE. Oh no, it's a Team Flare Grunt. Same deal. And he's got a Xerosic if Sid gets an energy this turn. In Toad-on-Toad fights, if one Toad's got a muscle band and one Toad doesn't, that Toad has a huge advantage. Now, not only... And he needs an energy here. Does he have an energy? I didn't see. I don't... Oh, yes, he has. He's got 2. He's got a water and a DCE, so he's fine. Wants to put down the water there because Ryan's got a Xerosic. Again, if you're thinking in terms of Sid here, you're thinking he can discard a DCE with a Xerosic or a Team Flare Grunt, but he can only discard a water with a Team Flare Grunt. Ergo, there's less chance of him discarding the water. Ergo, I'm going to put the water energy on Seismitoad. So he did the right thing there. Now here, instead, Ryan uses Xerosic to get rid of the muscle band on the active Seismitoad, which is of course something that he's able to do, and something that he did. But Sid's still attacking. And you'll notice that Ryan has no muscle bands down. Sid's still got a muscle band on that bench Seismitoad. So even if he's not got the advantage here, he's going to have the advantage in future. Oh, and there goes a Duskull. That's lovely. And he managed to buy himself a turn because Ryan didn't have the energy. And this is going to be absolutely huge here. He has bought himself a turn of trainers with Ryan hasn't. He Lysandra up the benched Seismitoad. Ryan was not able to get it out the active because he was trainer locked. He didn't have a double colourless energy. And that means that Ryan has had to essentially give up a turn and let Sid have a turn of trainers. And one huge thing about Sid having a turn with trainers, as we've seen, is the fact that Sid can play a Hypnotoxic Laser. And that means that 30 extra damage is going down on Ryan's side of the field between turns. Essentially 60 extra damage a turn. Ryan can't use Super Scoop Up, he can't use Scoop Up Cyclone. And even though he's attacking with a Seismitoad here, that Seismitoad is dying at the end of Sid's next turn. Sid's going to do 30 damage with Quaking Punch here, putting Seismitoad on 150, and he's going to die from poison. Sid's going to get 2 prizes. Ryan's got 100 damage on the field. And Sid has got... Well, he's got a Dusclops down. He needs a Dusknoir in the near future. But he's got time to do that. Now, interestingly, as we went through Swiss himself, because we only had 20 players, and again, I want to point out that we had several people who have already got their invite for Worlds. Ryan looks a pretty sure bet to be in the top 22 to get a paid invite to Worlds. There's another chap in the tournament who made top cut who's looking pretty good for top 22 in Worlds, as in the Europe to get a free trip to Worlds. And we've got the current UK national champion, amongst others. So please don't think this is a tournament full of bad people. But with only 20 people, Sid actually snuck into Top Cut with a 2-1-2 record. 2 wins, 2 draws, and just 1 single loss. And he snuck in at 8th place. But you can see when he gets into Top Cut here, this deck is really good. It's got really good matchups. And you see here that against a basic Seismitoad deck, he can use Grenade Hammer. And we've seen that you don't want to use Grenade Hammer because we've just seen that just a second ago, Ryan had to give up the trainer lock for a turn and it had a big effect. But you could use Grenade Hammer for your last 2 prizes. And here, Sid, he needs a Dusknoir. Having a Dusknoir here would be huge. Now, he could Grenade Hammer here. That would be kind of funky. If he Grenade Hammers, he's going to get the KO. and go down to 2 prizes. But then again, if Ryan plays an N and gets set up, and he's got a Jirachi, so you know he's playing an N, he'll be absolutely fine. So I think Sid would probably want to just continue here to use Quaking Punch. And he really... Although, attaching that third energy... Oh, he's going to end Ryan to 5. I mean, there's no reason to attach that third. Now, if I were him here, I would attach the energy to the bench Seismitoad, and I would just continue the Quaking Punch. You're going to lose that Seismitoad next turn. But then Ryan's going to be down to 3 prizes. You're going to KO the Seismitoad to go down to 2. Because if you Quaking Punch here, you're putting that Seismitoad on... Well, he's already on 130, so you're putting him on 160, and you're getting the KO next turn. Or actually, what would be better here is manually retreat. And yes, I missed what he was doing, although I pointed out just before he did it. Want to make that clear. Because the other thing here, when you do the maths, a muscle-banded Quaking Punch is enough for the KO there. And this could be very, very quick. All he needs here is 1 Quaking Punch, and next turn he can Grenade Hammer for the win. And Ryan, I don't think there's anything he can do here. Sid's got it. So, yeah, I hope you've managed to follow that as a fast-paced game, an exciting game, where we really got to see a very interesting Seismitoad list. The 2 flaws I was going to point out about these Seismitoad Shaymin decks as we went through that I never really got a chance to. Number 1, you're relying on Shaymin, and we saw what happened in that game. When you don't have a Shaymin, your deck can flounder because you've cut down on supporters in order to get all the Shaymins and all the crushing hammers, etc. When you start going, you're fine, but it can be hard to actually start. And you'll see there that the video's ended, so I think this is about time for me to end. So all I want to say here is thank you very much for watching. The other flaw is that you're only playing 4 energy, and if you're only playing 4 energy, it can be hard to actually pull them up. Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, etc. This particular tournament is now over, which I know is going to make you all very sad. It makes me a little bit sad, but there's nothing we can really do about that, so hey ho. I encourage you all to like my channel, to subscribe, to comment, all of that. Find other people to subscribe if you've already subscribed. And stay on the lookout because UK Nationals should be up on my channel soon, along with my top 10 cards of Phantom Forces and 2 entire league challenges I already have the footage for. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry for this little blip at the end and a little blip in the middle. These things happen. My name's Ross and you've been watching PTCG Radio.